Well, happy Wednesday, Thelma. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I would like to know what your cup says, though.
What my
Louise.
cup says? I mean, it's really fitting for me. It says, please go away, I'm introverting.
Wow.
I know.
Introverting with you out there in the Facebook
I
land.
know. We had to come out of our turtle shells in order to share this every week.
And I
if you don't know us, sometimes that's a really hard task.
Yeah, some people find that hard to
Yeah.
believe that.
Where?
I have a coworker that put it to me one day, like you're in a turtle shell, and when you're in an area that or in a
environment it makes you nervous, you pop in your turtle shell.
Yep.
We're introverted extroverts. We might not seem like we're introverted people, but I assure you, we like the safety of our turtle shell.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's some of you out there that can relate to that too, the safety of a turtle shell.
Yeah.
I don't look at turtles the same way anymore.
No. Speaking of turtle shells, it's a nice shell you got on the outside of your shirt there, Thelma.
Can you see that? This is
mean,
my Halloween. Actually, it was probably your Halloween vest from school. And
it's cute. It's got stitching on there. It's got buttons.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about panels, and so these vests are from a panel. Tell me about yours, Louise.
We have never been able to look at this vest and not laugh, obviously. My mom made this lovely vest for me. I gotta show you the back.
The big yellow school vest.
It had my bus number on there from when I was in kindergarten. There's a label on the back that says that this was made for me and that I wore this to school. And we laugh about it now. But, you know, like, you put a lot of work into this panel.
Of course
You
I did.
stitching all over on the inside of this sucker.
I didn't want it to look like a panel.
No, it didn't. So it's fun
And she
to-
really, when we come across it, said to me, "You made me wear this." Actually, one of her school pictures was taken in that vest. I was so proud.
You were, but I also think that you're like, oh, I can't believe I made you wear that.
I can't. You know, it's funny when you look back at old pictures and have old memories and that type of thing. Just like, what was I thinking at that point in time in my life? But
hey, I got me on the school bus because I could just look at the back of my vest and know where I was going.
well, we hope that you've enjoyed our vest. I'm not sure what's on the back of mine.
It's 3 witches with a broomstick.
Probably good that you don't get to see that, because, you know, it could be one of those witches, could be me riding on the back of my
we
vest.
both could fly away
Yeah.
on our turtle shells.
And I hope that some of you had these lovely vests back in the day when panel vests and panel clothing were popular.
And we still see some. Like, we always smile when we go to quilt shows. It's fun to see various quilted attire then, too. And we always smile and we always talk about our quilted vests.
Our vests that we should be donning at
We should
the
be.
next quilt show that we...
In October, because that's how long we have to wait.
We're hoping to have one in September,
I'm
actually.
just kidding, September.
We're still talking about doing a quilt show in September, the last weekend in Annandale. So we still have to see what Governor Walz decides to do here going forward, but we're keeping our fingers crossed that we
get to go
have
to a
a way
quilt show.
to get together with you on that
That'd be
Saturday.
great.
I believe it's the 27th of September.
It's going to be fun.
But today we want to show you, you know, as we reminisce, believe it or not, Louise, it's been 2 years since we packed up our quilt shop in Clare City.
It's already been 2 years ago.
And we
Man, a lot has changed
hauled
in 2
it
years.
east to Princeburg.
Yep.
It spent a year in a trailer. We dug around in there, knew where everything was at.
And we hauled it all in here, and we didn't know where everything was at.
And because the shop hasn't been finished yet, it's still in the containers that we packed it away, and we dig in those every once in a while. And so one night when we were looking for something, we came across a bunch of panels, and we reminisced, we laughed about that, and that's what we're going to share with you today.
How many people go to quilt shows like us and it's like, ooh, I like that panel, and I could do this project with that panel. But then we put the panels in a drawer and we move on to something else, and I assure you, this is the tip of the iceberg with some of our panels that we don't have done.
Don't tell that.
But you don't need to know how many are underneath the surface.
No,
You just get to see the tip.
that's in the dark side.
It is. It is.
So, I'm
what
going
do
to
you-
show you a couple of, like, this is one of my favorite
Oh,
panels.
this is
This
cute.
is a little Halloween panel by Jackie Patton.
And if you were to ever meet this lady, she's a little odd, but dang, she
Very
paints.
eccentric.
She paints all of this stuff and then turns it into fabric. So it's
Yep.
super cool to see your painted picture before you see the fabric.
And I'm not sure she's still designing fabric anymore. We haven't seen her out and about. She used to design for Red Rooster Fabrics, and I'm not sure that Red Rooster is even around anymore. So I guess that sort of ages the panel, maybe.
No.
And like we talked about last week,
when
fall
you
is
like
my
the
actually
fabric,
favorite.
though, it
Thus, I
never
have
gets
this
old.
delightful fall vest. This is a panel that almost looks like watercolor painting. And it's probably time to get at it because fall will be right around the corner, especially with the forecasts that's in the air.
Speaking of fall, I hunted. Do you remember we went to the Missouri Star and I wanted this panel so bad, and they were out and they didn't have any more at their warehouse. And
That's
now
such
I
a
look
cute
at it and think, oh, I should really get this sucker ready.
You might
So-
see my dog tonight.
This is my fall panel with a bicycle on it.
What else have you got in your collection there?
Sometimes you see stuff online and you think it looks kind of cool. This is supposed to be a book that goes with another panel I couldn't find. But I just like the words. I'm not sure about the colors, but the words are
It's bright and cheerful.
the words are kind of sweet. You
I
kind of
have
have a bright
panel
one
with
too.
bright words too.
We even have the price tag on that one.
Nice. Well, we'll rip that off.
And that too has some really sweet words.
And I think sometimes you find that you buy these things and you have a purpose for them at the time. I remember thinking this would make great little gift projects and still had the price tag on it and it's still in the box. Sort of like out of sight, out of mind.
And then Stonehenge. Do you remember when that fabric first came out? They made some cool
They did.
stuff. Like, we love these panels. And if you stitch on the lines, it looked like you spent an uber abundance of time trying to piece something together that's super complex, but it really wasn't because you cheated.
That's my
So
favorite kind of
there's
panel.
that one. This is my favorite out of all of them. I love the center design in that.
So why didn't we ever finish them, I wonder?
I don't know. Too much to do and not enough time. Ooh, the center on this one's pretty. I forgot what this
Let's
looked
make
like.
another pretty fall
Oh, it would.
table runner.
Beautiful stuff. And then we hit the farm.
This was one of my favorite when this came out, and I never had horses. Actually, we did have one. I liked cows, but I love pictures of horses. So you actually gave me this for Christmas one year.
It did.
And someday it will be in a quilt farm that I can cover up with on the couch. Maybe.
Most of you saw this. My mom got a project done with hers, and we still have my brown panels, a homegrown.
This is still pretty popular yet today.
It
I
is.
like how the farm theme is just kind of hung in tight with things.
It has. So I'm going to
Very
copy her pattern and sew mine up someday.
Kathy Schmidt, she's one of my favorite designers. This is a panel by her.
Can you get it there, Thelma?
Maybe. Sometimes the fabric does win.
It just wants the element of surprise.
Tells us to count our blessings.
You have a thing for birds.
I do. It's black, it's tan, it's my favorite colors. I love birds. And I like the simplicity of her design.
We're gonna stick to wildlife. I have to tell you, this weekend we went fishing, which isn't much of a surprise. But I complained in my last video that I never ever get to outfish my fiance, and I outfished him 3-1 this weekend. It was a very major moment, and I did rub it in the entire weekend, which wasn't a very good idea because I probably won't outfish him again.
Might come
But
back to bite
you
ya.
have to take advantage of those moments, and by
Absolutely.
gosh, that felt amazing. But this will probably, oh, there's more on this one than I thought there was.
This is the one you were thinking. I
Yeah,
bet.
that's the one I was thinking of.
We'll start with A.
So we'll start with A. So we go fishing a lot, and we go this way.
Oh, upside down to my
So we have a muskie jumping out of the water. It missed the lure, which is normally what happens. And so this will probably make its way out to South Dakota, and it probably has to be his because his muskie's a half-inch bigger than mine is. But then they also took some popular prints and they made these little ones. And so we've got the muskie. My absolute favorite, which is the crappie on the bottom. And then we also get a bass up in the corner. And then my least favorite's the trout, and that's just because we don't really go trout fishing. But Riley Blake has done some really nice work with their panels, making it look pretty realistic. So at some point in time, these will make its way out to our South Dakota home.
Because I live in a family that loves wildlife, I bought this thinking I would make a Christmas present with it at some point in time. Instead, it's aging nicely in a cardboard box.
I know, but the box is doing a great job at holding that panel up. It looks fantastic.
And it has a white dog just like mine, so I think I was a little partial to
And
this.
on the bottom, there's a white one and a brown one sitting in the back, so that's kind of fitting too. And keeping up with the woodsy theme, we have these lovely winter panels.
I like the birch
Which I still
look.
really like. I love birch.
You got
birch
something
sticks.
done with yours.
I did get something done. Needs a binding. That's got a place that it's going to hang up in the house.
Chickadees, they're one of my favorite birds. And so this too has a nice little home in a cardboard box.
I think we
And
got that out
someday
in
it'll move
Wisconsin,
on,
didn't we?
or
It's
it
even
may find its
got
way.
some pretty gold.
Yeah, it's kind of glitzy for me, so I'm
But
not
it's
sure what I
pretty.
was thinking that day.
It's very pretty.
I'm sure it was the chickadees that lured me in.
Well, and then we get cardinals. I love
Can't
cardinals.
go wrong with Holly Taylor.
And her good old cardinals. Those are really pretty.
Yeah, I wonder how many birthdays that's had in our
Does it ever
collection.
say on the thingy?
Maybe best that it doesn't.
Oh, that's a bummer. It doesn't.
And with Christmas coming, I had thought that, this would make a nice little wall quilt and has a lot of good advice on there, but it too is in the stack of someday make something out of me.
And we just need to be finished. I still love these. These are one of my favorite things. Whimsicles.
Yep.
Always did some really cute stuff. Nobody could beat her snowmen. Oh,
No.
they're just adorable little guys.
And she too kind of took a hiatus from designing fabric, and I believe she's back a little bit now, but I haven't seen anything on that line as of yet.
And then we get
This seems to be a very
Four-
popular look right now.
4 canvas ones. This is my favorite. Gotta always be positive. Good things are always gonna happen. Sometimes it takes a while for the good things to happen, but they always, always, always do.
That's a good
And-
motto to live by.
These little guys. And then the last two, we get the Corinthians prayer.
We should finish that up for the wedding.
Oh, we could hang it at the reception. And then the last one is Amazing Grace. So those are all out of canvas.
Which is popular right now.
It is kind of a different look.
I think my absolute favorite panels ever
Oh, I
are
remember
the
this.
panels that actually look like an old quilt.
Do you remember when we first dug this thing out? We started it and then we stuck it underneath.
Yeah.
There's one lady who may or may not watch this that knows that all the really good stuff was always shoved underneath of our cutting counter. And this thing spent a lot of time underneath the cutting counter before all the lines were stitched.
And crazy how, remember, we had that fabric for a long
This
time. As
bolt
soon as
had
we
many
got
birthdays.
the sample completed, that fabric was
It was
gone
gone.
right now. Those are little hexies that actually formed a flower garden, and this is just big hexies. And this too, we went through bolts and bolts of this fabric, which was one
It's
of my
just
favorites.
fun how it looks like all of this has been done by hand, and in the end, like, panels are a lot of fun for stuff like
They
that,
can
whether
be.
it's a vest or whether it's something like that, to just add a little stitching over the line. And heck, you could tell people you spent hours piecing that sucker
Yes, you
together
could.
when really you didn't, which is really fun.
No one would know the difference.
I don't know about you, but by the looks of that pile, we should probably pick a couple out and start sewing, huh?
Yeah, but I think I'm going to work with the new ones that have just come in rather than the oldies but goodies.
Absolutely.
Speaking of panels, if you like this kind of look, you're going to want to check out on Riley Blake's website. They have a new collection. It's something I've never seen before by Jane Austen. It's a grouping of fabric that replicates an old Jane Austen quilt. Now, I don't know anything about that. I'm not a history buff. But if you go on their website, you will see the yardage for the interior of the quilt.
It's really pretty cool.
And then they have came out with a border fabric that mimics like little tiny squares, like postage stamp.
It looks like you've done an astronomically significant amount of piecing.
And that goes around. It's sold in a lot different, like the running yardage isn't going from selvage edge to selvage edge. It's going across, so you're buying X number of yards to gain your width or length of fabric.
But well worth not having to piece all of that.
Right. And when you sewed on those lines, you're going to think that you've pieced all of that together. So they did a beautiful job with that fabric. And I think I've actually seen one other company that's starting to do that yardage. You buy it the length rather than the width. And I think you could do some really pretty stuff with it.
It's really cool. It's well worth the time checking it out.
Well, that kind of wraps up panel quilts for...
And a look at what we've gotten us in our stash.
And you see that we have a lot of unfinished items that are stashed away in that box. And with the heat coming this week, it's probably a really good thing to be staying inside and working on
Absolutely.
a favorite quilt project.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for your input last week on whether or not we should pursue a book. Verdict is still out. I actually got called back to work, and so boy, my creative spark was snuffed out by a phone call, I guess. And it'll come back, but for the next couple of weeks,
You're gonna be working.
it's just going to be simmering there. So I'm back to the working world like everybody else, finding it difficult to find some time to do some sewing and creating. So
until next time,
until next time,
have a great week.
shalom, my friends.